Reid and Hall, Comaquid, Massachusetts. Sure. I graduated from Barnstable High School in 1972, elementary school, middle school, and back then, all the kids, we all knew each other, all the teachers, everybody was friendly, everybody knew each other. It was a great time to grow up. I was on the track team through high school. I got to know kids from other track teams from other towns on the Cape and over the bridge, and I have a lot of good memories from being at Barnstable High School and growing up here in the town. Go to Patriots games. I've been a Patriots season ticket holder since 1985, and I've got beautiful seats on the field, and that is my hobby since I don't have boats anymore, and go up to most of the games. Correct. Paul Prescott was our principal, and there were not nearly the amount of teachers that there are there now. And again, it was just a fun time. All the kids, we all knew each other. There was very little crime, very little discipline issues, as I recall back then. And like I said, it was much more of a close-knit school. And I would love to go back. I'd love to go back for a day. And I will never forget John Linehan, because that's probably going to come up, where he was the principal at the middle school. And you want to talk about a disciplinarian. But seriously, coming right through the years, I have fond memories from elementary school right through high school. Sure. He was the athletic director. I believe when I was a junior or senior in high school, he may have retired right around then, but I certainly would see him out in the community and see him at sporting events, see him at events. Didn't know him personally, but I always admired him for his qualities and athletics and that sort of thing. Had him for a history teacher. I will never forget the day with Mr. Howes where we were having a discussion with the kids in the class, and there was one student in the class that threw out the F-bomb, and I thought Mr. Howes was going to have a stroke. He turned as red as a beet, and I thought he was going to assault the kid in his seat. And but I always admired Mr. Howes. He was always good to us. He was very old school. He was very down to earth, and I know all the kids in the class liked him. Yep, I remember her. May have had her maybe for a homeroom teacher, not a regular classroom. Always liked her. She was very nice to us. Who won't foresee since passed. Always good to us. He was always friendly with the kids. If you ever needed something, he was always right there for you. Again, I always admired him as well. Hal Conforth was no nonsense, and this would never happen. If you were ever to be out sick, if you ever didn't show up for track practice, and then the next day you showed up, he would take your head off and embarrass you in front of everyone, and made his point, and it never happened again. Our track teams did very well back then under Mr. Conforth. There were other coaches with us back then too, but Hal was the head track coach. I went to Cape Cod Community College where I majored in criminal justice. And from there, I got on the police force when I was 20 years old. And fast forward 40 years later, here I am. Cape Cod Community College was a tremendous education. The instructors were, as I recall, former police officers, lawyers, Judge O'Neill, Jim O'Neill, whom I loved tremendously. I think either he retired or he's still, okay, he's still there. He taught criminal law. I learned so much about search and seizure and elements of crimes, and I still benefit from his classes today. Well, I started as a summer officer in 1974. We had the light blue shirts back then, which were both good and bad. We could be targets or, that sort of thing. My first assignment was a foot patrol, walking Main Street in the West End from 12 at night till 8 o'clock in the morning. We worked 6 days on with 1 day off, and of course my day off was Wednesday night. So what are you going to do on a Wednesday night? And where you've already worked 6 days, you were very tired, but you learned a lot about people. You learned a lot about law enforcement. You got to know the good people of the town of Barnstable, and you got to know the people that had issues. But the good people outweighed certainly the people that had issues here in town. It was, although it was a quieter time, but I could tell you by the end of the summer, I knew everyone that was out all night. You get to know all the shop owners, you got to know all the bar owners, you get to know everyone out there. You even got to know what time people went to work in the morning. You would recognize anyone that didn't belong there, so you could interact if it became criminal, any suspicious activity, suspicious persons. You would also get to know the criminals, which were certainly a lot less than there are today. Back then, you could certainly reason with people, not necessarily taking them into custody or bringing charges. You could just talk to them, make them understand what they had done was wrong. And that has changed a lot in law enforcement too. We don't have that luxury in so much as we did back then. On my first assignment on the midnight shift, Sergeant Coughlin, George Coughlin, everybody loved George. First night after roll call, he said, take a pocket full of dimes. There were no portable radios back then for the foot patrol guys. The officers in the cruisers, the regular officers, would have portable radios, but the summer officers, there were call boxes, Main and Ocean, C Street and Main Street. I believe some of the villages had call boxes. And if there was an issue, you would call in. And if you needed assistance, one of the regular officers would come out and assist us. Sure, there was a cruiser, specially equipped, and you could drive down Main Street, you could drive through the mall parking lot, and it would tell you instantly if a vehicle was stolen, if there were any violations, if the operator owner was wanted for anything. It really makes our job a lot easier and generates a lot of paperwork too, but public safety is number one.
Right.
I had mixed emotions about it, where I was in detectives most of my career, and I was involved in a lot of sexual assault investigations, testifying in Superior Court, District Court, Juvenile Court, and not to minimize that job, I really wasn't sure what I was in for. But I'm glad I did. The house masters, the principals, administrators have been tremendous working with me. And the first year I started 8 years ago, I decided to continue running a police academy that Officer Joe Carnes had started. And I kind of picked up on that, and it became from one class a year to 2 classes a day per year. And over the last 5, 6 years, or even 7 years, some of the kids that were in our police academy class have gone on to get on the force full time.
Really?
So that makes me feel old, number one. But by the same token, I knew the kids that were in the class, they expressed an interest the first day of school that they wanted to be Barnstable police officers. There's another officer, female officer, that was in our class the first year. She's a police officer in Orleans. And she's a juvenile officer down there. So it's I see that very rewarding for myself and for the kids.
Sure.
I see kids that have a lack of respect for themselves. I see a lack of respect to some of the teachers. When I meet with kids and parents over criminal activity or issues going on at home, I see some kids that are disrespectful to their parents. I see some parents that want to be the kids' best friends, which can certainly cause some problems, and parents that enable some of their kids. But I must say that is about 4 or 5% of the population of that school. It's like criminal activity in a town. You get frustrated by this small population, but that small population takes up the majority of your time. I keep things in perspective by college, high school graduation, by the senior prom, by the dances, by all the good things that go on there. So that enlightens me, and it's I'm very proud to be a police officer for the town of Barnstable, and I'm very proud to be assigned to Barnstable High School. Way back when, I worked at Chester Crosby's on Bridge Street in Osterville, and I was a security officer working crazy hours like 9 at night till 5 in the morning, and did some, worked on the gas dock, filled in on some other things. And being a security officer kind of gave me the idea that, and speaking to some of the regular officers that would come by and visit, that was a career that I wanted to pursue. And that is how I started as a summer officer. Officer Jeff Greenwood retired. Donnie Arthur retired. They were very valuable in sharing things with me about police work, and that it was a career that I definitely wanted to pursue. And I still see Jeff, and I thank him to this day when I see him out there.
Sure.
It would be the fall, when the tourists go back to where they come from, and we get the town back to ourselves. And also being Patriot season, being, as I said, indicated earlier, being a ticket holder. And I just enjoy the fall when things it's a slower pace, things slow down, and you get to reacquaint yourself with your neighbors and your friends that you don't get to see during the summer months, because everyone's working crazy hours and working long shifts and that sort of thing. So the fall would be my best time of the year. I would have to say it was when Bill Clinton, President Clinton, was here. I believe the year was 1999, and he had 2 destinations, fundraisers. One was at an estate in Osterville on Little Island, and he also visited Hyannisport at the Kennedy compound, and I was assigned to a Secret Service agent that was in charge of the detail for the president, and I was with her the better part of a week before the president arrived. I got to meet all the Secret Service agents, the Mass State Police. They had a detail that was assigned with the president as well. And I'll never forget, this made me think of this, the Secret Service agent that I was with, her name was Carrie Dreyer. I just remember her name. And she said to me, Detective, you are either in the most dangerous place in the world right now, or you're in the safest place in the world right now. And I was, when she asked me that, I was looking around. I saw the Coast Guard boats offshore out in West Bay, and the Mass State Police and the helicopters that were flying overhead, and what could happen. And my answer to her was, I feel I'm in the most safest place in the world right now. And that was for 1 hour and 10 minutes, and after the 1 hour and 10 minutes, President Clinton was off to his next destination, which was Hyannisport. I think the strengths are all the agencies, the Department of Public Works, the school teachers, the folks at the landfill, structures and grounds. No matter where you go, I've been very fortunate in having a good relationship with everyone. Everyone's friendly. If you ever need something, I work a lot of road details with the folks from the town of Barnstable, with the places I just indicated, the departments. And they're all very friendly and very close-knit, I guess you might say. I've been very fortunate in that respect, too. The growth of the town has grown immensely over the last 20 years, I would say. In that back in the day, back in the 70s, everyone knew everybody. And today, it's just with the population, it's, you know, it's not unique to the town of Barnstable. I'm sure it's everywhere you go. And it's increasing the police force. It's increasing the folks at all the courts to deal with the volume of cases that come in. So it's just the increase in population. And with that becomes the increase in crime. Chief McDonald is absolutely fabulous. He and I were neighbors back in the day. I remember when he was brand new back on the job, he became a canine officer. He became a sergeant, became a lieutenant. And I believe I told him way back when, Lieutenant, you will be the next chief. And lo and behold, a couple of years later, he took the chief's job. Excellent boss, excellent boss. Reid N. Hall, Comaquid, Massachusetts.